Botzer. Okay, when you say a plane, are you talking about a sloped plane like this? Because if you're saying a box at the top of the plane, I'm assuming you have that. Some box with mass m. I'd call that an inclined plane. That's what I would call that, an inclined plane. And it is sitting at some angle that you were probably given. We'll call that theta for now. Okay, so I got a box on a slope plane, or an inclined plane, or just a slope. What am I looking at? Am I trying to prove if we dropped it from if we dropped it from the top of that plane, would that object have an angular velocity? So like if the object, you're saying like if I just let go of the object and it just like went like that, because we know that force is mg sine theta, right? No, it wouldn't have an angular velocity. And the reason being is, when we think about an angular velocity, what we're thinking about is an object moving in a circular path, right? So, if this is some tangential velocity and it's at some radial position, then what we could say is, look, this disk, or whatever this is, like a merry-go-round, this entire disk is rotating with an angular velocity. Your box isn't rotating here. Your box is sliding down a plane, but it's not rotating, right? Some people think about a problem like this, and some people actually redraw it. They just redraw it on flat ground, and they say, hey, look, here's your box of mass, and there's a force, mg sine theta pulling this way. Some people it's a common for that type of for some types of problem to flatten the plane out. Now, what you can have in a problem like this is, it's called a banked turn problem, where'd you send it to me? In the Knowledge Foundation? Where'd you send it to me? I haven't gotten this picture yet. Where? Here, do this. Go, Dodo, if you're on a computer, go into, if you click the Discord down below, not the Knowledge Foundation, but the Virtual 226 Discord, you should be able to jump into there and send it to there. But yeah, you're not gonna have an angular velocity out of that. The only way you could even get an angular velocity out of this would be something really weird, where it was like you have a box of mass, and this is a rough and tumble surface, like that, and for some reason If oh hold on, let me redraw this. Let me draw this steeper. Cause I'm thinking. Yeah, if you had a rough surface with friction on it, and what would actually matter here is that if this was your center of mass, pulling down with some amount of weight, this would be right here. This would act as a pivot, and then you'd have a torque which would cause this rotation. Then you'd have that occur. But in a problem where you're just in a problem where you don't have friction there, it's just sliding, you're not going to have that issue. And if your center of mass is behind that pivot point right there, you're not going to generate a rotating torque either, because technically that's going to pull you like into the surface, and it's just going to be like your box is sitting there, so who cares? You'll have to have a very steep hill to do that. And that's why, like, if you do put a box on an actual surface, sometimes the box will tumble down. So that's what's going on. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, okay, I see you. It just came in, Dodo. Yeah, so I think that's just what I was talking about there. But you need friction to do that. You need friction to do that. If you don't have friction, then you're not going to have that rotating torque. And in that case, you need this angle here. You know, you need this angle down below, alpha or theta. I think you called it alpha in your photo. You need that angle. So if you don't have friction, then this box is, oh wow, I just deleted a lot of stuff. That was weird. This box is just going to slide if you don't have friction. But if you do have friction here, then what's going to happen is there is going to be a point, you know, and you pointed out right here, which you can cause some sort of, oh, you know what, do you need friction? Definitely easier if you get friction. Do you need friction? Let's think about this. My gut is telling me you need friction, and I always trust my gut in the world of physics. And the reason I believe I trust my gut here is that even if I had a very steep incline like this, yeah, you need friction, and here's why. Here's why. No, here's why. And this is going to be weird. This is going to be a weird thing to think about. Here's why you need friction. You need friction. Here's a flat ground. Here's a sphere. If I push this sphere at the center of mass with a force, right? So I'm pushing it at the center of mass, which is where, you know, gravity is acting on this box, right? But if I push this sphere at the center of mass, it's not going to roll. It's not going to roll. It's just literally going to, like, it's literally just going to slide. It's not going to roll. And if you've ever been bowling, sometimes when you take a bowling ball, if you just have like a very straight throw, if you don't put like a hook on it or anything, if you just have a straight throw, when you roll that bowling ball and it hits the like nearly frictionless, you know, well waxed bowling lane, that ball just, it just moves, right? It doesn't actually roll. Um, because there's no torque at the pivot point, which is mass center. Oh, you got a good point. Because that pivot point's right here, and that's on top of the center of mass. Good point. Okay, good counter. Good counter. I like it. Would this roll? I still have a gut feeling it's no, because even if you have and I go back to the sphere, if you have a sphere sitting on this, right? That's its pivot point right there, but the center of mass is out here, right? Oh, just draw a straight line. And if you put a sphere on a ramp and that ramp doesn't have friction, the sphere will not rotate down it. The sphere won't rotate down it. In this situation right here, if you put a sphere on a frictionless surface, even if that surface is a slope, it's not going to roll down it. It will slide down that. Well, if you want, like, a sphere is the best scenario for something to roll, and if that, yeah, but for the box, if you don't have friction, you're not going to get it to roll either. Like, if the sphere isn't rolling, the box isn't rolling unless you have friction. Because you can't just say, like, oh, you know, there's a point out here that will snag or something like that. Like, the point isn't snagging on anything if there's no friction, right? Like, that would be where the pivot point is. So I know if you put a sphere on a perfectly frictionless surface, it will not roll down it. It will slide down it. And that's because every point is being pulled by that same mg sine theta. When you have friction, the friction's causing the rotation. Because what's actually happening is the friction is pushing it in the opposite direction, and the friction is causing the rotation to occur like that. That's one way to think about it. And you have, yeah, I'm like 99.999%. But was your question that if there was no friction on this box? Because if there's no friction on this box, then you shouldn't get a rotation out of it. Same thing with the sphere. If you don't have friction on that sphere, you're not going to get a rotation out of it. It's just all going to slide as one. Yeah, and I guess the best way to say that is if the reason why the friction's so important is, you know, we look up here, this is the center of the mass of the sphere, right? And if a force is acting on the center of mass, it's never going to cause a rotation. Just like we saw down here, you know, with this like flat example. If I pushed it at the center of mass, then it's not going to rotate. And since this weight is acting at the center of mass, it's not going to cause a rotation. But the friction, when it acts, because that is, you know, some radial distance away from that center of mass, now I have a force which I have a radial position I can cross with a force, and that will give me a torque, which will give me that frictional component which starts the roll. And here with the box, since that weight is once again acting at the center of mass, the whole box is just going to slide. As soon as you add even just the tiniest bit of friction, now you can get that rotating force there. Yeah, you need friction to get that roll. You need friction to do it. And it's a weird, like, we just spent, 5 to 10 minutes working through this idea, and it's such a weird idea to work through because everything has friction. I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it anywhere. So the intuition, I've been living, in this world for 1,000 years, and I've always encountered friction. Things always roll when you put them on a hill. Like, yeah, that's right if you include friction. But if you get rid of it, then mathematically you can't generate that rotating or that torque you need to rotate, and you just slide, which is such a weird idea. But that's why I said, like, my physics gut is telling me that you shouldn't get it, and it doesn't matter. Then I had to go back and prove it, and that's difficult. And I liked the back and forth. I like how you said here, like, hey, let's not just include this just yet because, you're right underneath. Like, what happens if I'm not underneath over here, And that was a good exercise. It was a good exercise to work through that. But yeah, you need friction there. You need something to act off of the center of mass in order to provide that rotating force. Because, think of it this way. You can think of it this way as well. If someone pushes you on, like, the middle of your chest, you're just going to get pushed back. But if someone pushes you, like, at your shoulder, you're going to rotate. So if someone's just pushing, or the weight is just pushing the sphere, you're not going to go to rotation out of it. You're just going to slide. So yeah, cool question. Oh, I forgot to put a stream marker for like 10 minutes ago. Ugh, whatever. Cool question. And we'll have to clip that and put that under the Dodo question bank. To put that under the Dodo question bank. And if you're one of my AP students and you're planning on taking the mechanics test, you should know that idea. You should know that concept.